The trial of the century, the O.J. Simpson story.
Good to see you all. How do you respond? With optimism.
Before 1994, Orenthal James Simpson was an American icon. Known as the Juice, he was one of the greatest running backs in NFL history, a Heisman Trophy winner, and a lovable movie star and Hertz rental car spokesman. He was the rare black celebrity who had crossover appeal, living in the ultra-wealthy, predominantly white neighborhood of Brentwood in Los Angeles. The murders at Bundy Drive. Just after midnight on June 13, 1994, a neighbor walking their dog in Brentwood was led by a hysterical Akita, its paws stained with blood, to the walkway of 875 South Bundy Drive. There, in a gruesome scene, the neighbor discovered two bodies, Nicole Brown Simpson, 35, and Ronald Goldman, 25, a waiter who had been returning a pair of sunglasses left by Nicole's mother at a restaurant earlier that night. Both had been brutally stabbed to death. Nicole had been attacked with such ferocity she was nearly decapitated. There were defensive wounds on both victims, indicating they had fought for their lives. LAPD detectives, including Tom Lang and Mark Furman, arrived at the scene. Because of Simpson's celebrity status, the decision was made to personally inform him. Detective Furman jumped the wall of Simpson's nearby Rockingham estate and found a key piece of evidence, a single, bloody glove that appeared to match one found at the Bundy crime scene. They also found bloodstains on Simpson's white Ford Bronco, parked outside. O.J. Simpson, however, was in Chicago, having taken a late-night flight for a business trip. When informed by phone, he agreed to return immediately. Upon his return, he was handcuffed and taken in for questioning.
The evidence against Simpson was quickly mounting. DNA tests, still a new technology at the time, linked blood at the crime scene to Simpson, and blood on the glove found at his house to the victims. On June 17, 1994, the LAPD officially charged Simpson with 2 counts of first-degree murder and arranged for him to turn himself in. Instead of surrendering, Simpson fled. He left behind a suicide note, read on live television by his friend and lawyer Robert Kardashian, which included the famous phrase, "Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life." Later that afternoon, a motorist spotted Simpson's white Ford Bronco on the I-5 freeway in Orange County. The car was driven by his friend Al Cowlings, while O.J. lay in the back with a gun to his head. A bizarre, low-speed police pursuit began. Nearly every major TV network interrupted its programming, including the NBA Finals, to broadcast the chase live. An estimated 95 million viewers watched as the Bronco cruised along the empty LA freeways, surrounded by a fleet of black and white police cars and dozens of news helicopters. Hundreds of fans lined the bridges, cheering, "Go, O.J., go." The ensuing criminal trial, the People v. O.J. Simpson, became the most publicized legal battle in history. It began on January 24, 1995, and lasted nearly 9 months. The prosecution, led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, was confident. They presented a mountain of evidence, including DNA analysis, bloody footprints matching a rare brand of shoes Simpson owned, and hair and fibers linking Simpson to the crime. Their theory was simple: O.J. was a jealous, violent man who killed his ex-wife in a rage and murdered Goldman when he interrupted the attack. However, the defense, known as the Dream Team, was equally legendary. Led by Johnny Cochran and Robert Shapiro, and including Sean Hawley, F. Lee Bailey, and Barry Scheck, they deployed a masterstroke of a strategy. They chose not to focus purely on innocence, but rather to put the Los Angeles Police Department on trial. The race card. The trial occurred just 3 years after the Rodney King verdict and the devastating 1992 LA riots. Tensions between the African American community and the LAPD were at an historic high. The Dream Team exploited this tension. They accused the LAPD of incompetence, of mishandling the evidence, contamination, cross-contamination, planted evidence, and, most critically, of being driven by racial bias. The centerpiece of this strategy was Detective Mark Fuhrman. The defense obtained audio tapes of Fuhrman, recorded a decade earlier, in which he used vile, racial slurs and boasted about police brutality. Fuhrman, who had found the crucial bloody glove on Simpson's property, was exposed as a racist in the eyes of the predominantly black jury. His credibility was destroyed, and with it, the chain of custody for the key physical evidence. In one of the most memorable moments in television history, prosecutor Christopher Darden, in a tactical error, asked O.J. Simpson to try on the bloody gloves that had been recovered. Simpson, who had not worn the gloves during the trial, struggled to pull them over his hands, appearing to the jury as though they did not fit. In his closing argument, Johnny Cochran delivered the rhyme that would define the case. On October 3, 1995, after just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict. The announcement was met with gasps inside the courtroom. Across the country, reactions were instantly split along racial lines. While many African Americans celebrated the acquittal, viewing it as a necessary loss for a racist police department, many white Americans were appalled, believing Simpson had literally gotten away with murder. It remains one of the most culturally divisive moments in American history. The legend and the legacy. Simpson was free, but his image was destroyed. In 1997, the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman filed a civil wrongful death lawsuit. In the civil trial, where the burden of proof is lower than in a criminal case, Simpson was found liable for the deaths and ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages. He never paid the vast majority of it. Years later, in 2007, Simpson was arrested in Las Vegas for armed robbery and kidnapping in a botched attempt to recover his own sports memorabilia. He was convicted and sentenced to 33 years, serving 9 years before being released on parole. O.J. Simpson died from cancer in 2024. The story of his downfall remains a complex narrative of how a culture's obsession with celebrity, a history of police brutality, and the unresolved trauma of domestic violence collided to create the ultimate American tragedy.